Well, hello again and welcome to Mosaic Coffee Breaks. Again, today we welcome Nicola Jones from Athena Professional, who discusses all matters relating to the psychology of leading teams in a law firm.
The other thing we want to talk about this morning, Nicola, is around the whole leadership thing. And because we're now in the pandemic, how does leadership have to be different when you've got this sort of diverse organization now with people working in different ways and in different places?
I think working either virtually entirely or in a hybrid model, and lots of people are going to be hybrid now when we come out of lockdown, it really accentuates the gaps in our management and leadership practice. So the quality of relationships is kind of writ large. Our capacity to communicate effectively becomes amplified, whether it's brilliant or poor. Our relationships within teams have become really clearly brilliant or weak, so we've got this is what virtual working does. It amplifies everything, exaggerates everything. And one thing that's really helpful, and my starting point with learning as a practice, is to help people understand themselves first. So one of the things I think about digital transformation is it puts an extreme emphasis on how we relate to each other and how we can come together, create, understand our teams, be our best to meet the challenges. So I've used a psychometric, which I'd quite like to share with you, if I may, because I think it begins with understanding yourself and understanding your team. And this is why emotional intelligence always features in World Economic Forum lists of future skills, because you've got to understand yourself before you can lead others through any kind of change or indeed crisis.
Nicola, this looks familiar. Is this the graphic that you used when you had about 40 managing partners all playing Twister on the floor of Chancery Lane?
It is indeed, Barry. Yes, I have these in matte form, and we had several of them, didn't we? And it was a hoot. It was a hoot. It's a model, a behavioural model, and the nice thing about it is it embraces complexity, doesn't put us in a box. So it says we can be more than one thing. So we've got the classic one, introverted, extroverted here. And in Lumina, you don't have to be one or the other. You may be one at some times and something different at other times. So Lumina measures 3 different levels of your personality: your underlying, your everyday, and your overextended. And guess where we all are now? We're all in overextension. And the thing is, we shift and it's not predictable. And very often we're not even aware of it ourselves. So this is the overall combined mandala for a team. And you can see this big circle here. It shows where the team is showing up overall if you take into account everybody's behavior in the 3 different levels. So they're pretty people focused. So they're about collaboration and accommodating people and being empathetic on the whole. Now let's look at them in underlying. So if we look...
Nicola, just a question to my mind. This is similar, but I know it's not the same as many of us are familiar with the Myers-Briggs approach. So it's similar in terms of personality types, isn't it?
I've got some bad news on the Myers-Briggs front, I'm afraid.
Oh, go on.
It's been really significantly debunked. It was designed in 1948, and it was completely groundbreaking in its time. And what it does, it puts you in a box. So in Myers-Briggs, I am just extroverted, and I'm not permitted to be anything else. Also, I can never remember everything else I'm supposed to be because it's quite complicated. So actually, I know very well that I can be quite introverted, and yet Myers-Briggs, in terms of the sort of psychological analysis that goes behind it, we've moved on.
Right, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not a psychologist, but I am a practitioner in Lumina, and I'm assured that we are this is cutting edge psychological practice. Other psychometrics are available. So this is the underlying persona of this team. So if you recall, when we were in everybody together, we were slightly more towards an outcome focus. Anyway, we've moved as a team to underlying behaviors are very people focused. So this is our natural selves as a team. This is where we're disposed to be. So just have a look at, where's MF gone? Look at MF down here. MF is somebody who's very outcome focused, tough, logical, competitive in their underlying behavior. That's who they are. But everything changes when we go into our everyday. This is how we modify ourselves. So we put on our work clothes, we put on our work self. So watch MF down here, bottom right, watch. Oh, MF is moving a bit in every day. So modified behavior. And look what's happened to the team Mandala overall. We've shifted radically from being a team that's underlying disposition is to be people focused, dialing up and working hard to be outcome focused. And this is where the commercial goods are in the short term. But in the long term, this is where the wins are, because we have to take people with us in whatever we do. And then if we look at overextended, where does MF go? MF becomes very sociable, very overbearing, kind of can't be alone, and is perhaps a little bit difficult to handle. And if we perhaps do the same thing, but we look at BP, who starts off in being, where's BP gone? Oh, let me just go and find BP in every day, because I know it goes, there's BP in every day. In every day, BP gets quite inspiration driven. So quite kind of working with the flow, going for a kind of less structured approach. But watch where BP goes in overextension. So keep your eye on BP. Where's it going to go? Really chaotic and really unstructured. So people whiz about in their behaviors, and it's difficult to read. It's difficult to read if you're in person, and it's super difficult to read if you're online. Most people not even turning their video screens on, so we can't see what their visage is doing even. And we're possibly not inviting everybody to speak, so we're not getting anything from their tone or their mannerisms on a day-to-day basis. And particularly introverted people tend in overextension to become quite withdrawn and uncommunicative. So when people go very quiet, we need to make sure, just check in, not make assumptions, but check in that they're okay and that we're listening to them. And I think online is a bit, reminds me of being an actress and when I was a student, and you put your face paint on and you have to exaggerate everything. And actually we have to do that with our relationships as well. So when we might reach out to someone, say, you okay? Actually now that's reaching out and asking an open question. So what's going on for you? How are you feeling today? What matters to you? And asking these questions and having that conversation and finding out what's really going on for people.
Is this available online for people to play around with, or is it
this
something that...
you can play around with this to your heart's content on luminalearning.com, and it's there. There is a very excellent app called the Lumina Splash app, which you can have a play with. You can download to your phone and you can get a quick read of your behavioural profile, and you can share it with your friends and family at Christmas time, and that would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it be a fair assumption, Nicola, to make that what you were showing us there was a group of lawyers?
No, those aren't a group of lawyers. Actually, quite amusingly, they include Albert Einstein and Louis Pasteur. So they're just a sort of a demo one. But we've done.
How do you test Albert Einstein's personality under overextension?
I think they've given him a classic personality type. I can tell you that there's been some research done with lawyers. It was a group of, I think, 356 lawyers. Guess where they show up? Where do you think they are?
Very outcome based.
Yes.
Very outcome based, very discipline driven, very down to earth. So unsurprisingly, cautious, evidence based, structured, competitive, logical. Where that goes in overextension, you wouldn't know this, but when we're under pressure, win at all costs, seeks conflict, rigid, hesitant, lost in the detail. And what we're not accessing then is, we're not accessing the big picture, the conceptual thinking, we're not accessing the inspiration, and we're not accessing the people, accommodating, empathetic, collaborative space. Now, not everybody can do everything, but we can as a team. And that's really important. So it's got two big applications. One is for self-awareness. So understanding how you're showing up today as a leader, what's happening for you, and acknowledging that and allowing that. So that self-compassion is really important in a leader. And then actually understanding your team, being able to reach your team wherever they may be, and not to sort of name it and say, oh God, you know, you're being so overextended. That's not where it's at. It's actually to help them tap into behaviors that will mitigate that overextension, just to become a little bit self-aware. There's no fairy dust. There will still be conflict, but we can understand the conflict and maybe row back from the conflict with a language that we share around behavior. So it's got to be used with a benign intention.
Well, that completes part 2 of our session with Nicola Jones from Athena Professional. Watch out for our next coffee break coming to a laptop near you shortly.